Matt Whitaker, former U.S. Acting Attorney General.
This is such a great conversation about America, our future, what's going to save our republic.
We have a great football player. Matt Whitaker is here. Matt.
They tried to bury me. They didn't realize I was a seed.
It's a touchdown, Whitaker.
Former acting U.S. Attorney General.
Under President Trump.
I'm going to be an unwavering supporter of law enforcement.
Welcome to Liberty and Justice with your host, Matt Whitaker.
Hey, welcome back. It's Matt Whitaker. You're watching Liberty and Justice, and we have our most popular guest, back by popular demand, Kash Patel. How are you doing, my friends?
Great to be at CPAC live, live on your show, like real human beings instead of through like television monitors.
You know what? And I always enjoy that because every time we have done a Liberty and Justice show, I've been somewhere different and you've been somewhere
we've never
different.
been together.
One time we were in the same city, but not in the same place, which we were both in Vegas, I think, which was weird.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we only have a short amount of time. We have so much we could talk about. This morning, first person I ran into was you in the hotel lobby.
That's right.
At 7 a.m. and we did Radio Row. We had such a great time. In fact, unscheduled, we sat down and did a
we
joint
just jumped
interview.
One,
But what are you working on? I mean, I know you're doing the fight with Kash.
Yeah.
I know that the future of the Republic is definitely on the ballot in 24. What are you doing?
Well, look, you're leading the charge on your areas of expertise in terms of law enforcement, due process, stopping a two-tier system of
Rule of
justice,
law.
Rule of law. Follow the Constitution. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So.
Separation of powers,
no big
idea.
deal, right? But in my vignette stuff, I'm kind of following your lead when it comes to the deep state because I think they're the ones that have weaponized the rule of law, if we can call it that, with them, to create a system in the United States of America in 2023 where if you go to church in a certain town, the FBI literally profiles you and targets you to investigate you because of your faith. Or if you're a certain political orientation and you vote America First agenda policies or a big Donald Trump guy, the FBI targets you. And you just heard the current Attorney General go before Congress and swear under oath they never investigate anyone based on First Amendment alone. Yeah. And that's exactly what they're doing. So step one, educating them on those pieces, but two, providing the solution.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of different cases, and this Merrick Garland testimony just highlighted. I thought Senator Cruz, Senator Lee, my friend Marsha Blackburn, there's so many on that panel were able to highlight your point. I mean, we First Amendment, protected speech, we all understand that. And then we have these statutes that get as close as you possibly can. You have the FACE Act, which prevents people from blocking access to abortion clinics. And you have on the other hand, you have this law that says you can't protest essentially in front of a Supreme Court justice's home. I know it's a little more complicated, but nonetheless, if you're protesting, that could be a very threatening act.
Well, just think about it. What
demonstrating you know where somebody sleeps.
What if 100 people showed up and protested outside of Sotomayor's house? Not even and you've seen the video, they're not in the neighborhood. Right. They're on the front yard.
Yeah.
Whether they're a justice or not, just putting that aside to say, wait, why are we doing that? Why are we treating Americans like that who have chosen to serve in government?
Yeah, and the point is, so that's on the edge of First Amendment protected speech. It crosses a line at some point in time. Those cases have not necessarily, I think the FACE Act has more jurisprudence behind it than the Supreme Court judge law. But at the same point, you might not be investigating if you're taking a very technical, but you're observing. You're observing potential crimes being committed. And it seems like they're a lot more aggressive when it comes to protecting their preferred political viewpoint than the right's political viewpoint. Is that the American people are feeling this in their core?
I think it's fair. And look, I just had I was on stage with the great Julie Kelly, who's done so much wonderful writing on the Jan 6 stuff, and I'm going to borrow some of her stuff because it's the best. So I don't have to recreate the wheel. But literally, she said there's been 1,000 people arrested from Jan 6, and they put out messaging that they want to make 1,000 more arrests. Since when does the Justice Department say we're going to arrest X amount of people and then reverse engineer these prosecutions? And to your point, yes, some of them definitely broke the law, need to be prosecuted, and even go to jail.
Political violence is never acceptable on either side.
You and I have totally agreement in that. But the point she was making was a lot of these people were just standing there. Like some of these folks were standing in front of the Supreme Court Justice's house and being aided almost by undercover agents or FBI sources and whatnot, and they've been swept up.
Yeah.
But none of these protesters.
Right. And I'm not, listen, I always criticize whataboutism.
Yeah.
But in this case, what happened in the summer of 2020 and the attack on the White House, you were in the administration at that time.
Yeah.
That looked and felt and very similar to the January 6th. Now again, they didn't come into the White House. However, law enforcement was injured. They certainly, there were fires, burnings of buildings near the White House, and yet not a single soul has been geolocated. They haven't looked at the pictures and tried to figure out who they're with facial recognition. It just seems like we need it equal on both sides. The American people demand that like crimes be treated equally. And again, we can point to the raid on Mar-a-Lago as another example of where Joe Biden's treated one way, Mike Pence is treated one way, and yet we bring 30 FBI agents to Mar-a-Lago.
The former president's house. But
Yeah.
I think, look, as former federal prosecutors, you and I share a fundamental belief in due process and the rights afforded to those accused. Not some of the accused, but all of them. And myself as a public defender and you as a federal prosecutor can appreciate the fact that how is it that this Justice Department told the world there were 17,000 hours of footage on Jan 6th, and now we find out there's 41,000 hours? Isn't it a prosecutor's job? I know if you and I were bringing these cases, we would review all of the evidence to satisfy not just the due process of the defendants, but the constitutional obligations we have to bring charges and whether or not there's evidence of innocence or impeachment
which you're
evidence,
required to
which you're required
provide.
to do.
Yeah.
And so that's just another example of, well, we're just show me the man, I'll show you the crime almost theory, depending on who the man is.
Right.
And then we'll withhold evidence.
Yeah.
I mean, just to me, that was one of the most shocking things that, when I was a public defender, I was like, why are you withholding this? All you have to do is turn it over, and your obligation is done and due process is upheld.
Yeah.
But it's almost as if we have to game the system so much, win the media narrative, and then convince the world that we are doing God's work somehow by doing that.
So I want to, we just have such a limited time. I want to talk a little bit about what's good in the world. And when I come to CPAC, I meet patriots from all over the country who love their country. They express it in different ways, but they're looking to join a bigger movement, something bigger than themselves, some way to restore, renew our country. Do you share that same hope? Is that possible, or should we just start buying a year's worth of provisions and plan to live in the basement for a while?
I think I'll go one step further. I don't think maybe a year ago was hope. I was walking around here yesterday afternoon and I was blown away.
Yeah.
This place was wall to wall. 18-year-old interns to 85-year-old grandmothers, all here for the America First mission that we're talking about, putting Americans first on the economy, for the border, for the drug trafficking crimes, China, Russia, Iran. They have come together now because we have educated them behind Donald Trump's America First mission as to how America should work and must work and how it did successfully work. Yeah. So I think we're there. Now we got to carry that momentum behind the leadership of Trump to the polls to translate it into the victory that is the only way to solve it.
And I think this is the most important thing, is we cannot take any voter for granted.
No.
And I've had a lot of discussions with people saying, oh, I'm hearing this, get our votes in early, and now we're for early voting, or we're against early voting. But no, it's really, we need to make sure that our people show up. We'd prefer to get their votes in so we don't have to chase them down anymore.
No,
and then we need to work on persuadables, people that aren't 100% with us, but as Ronald Reagan said best, somebody that's 80% with me is not 20% my enemy, is not my enemy. I think we really need to win hearts and minds, and it was only 50,000 or so votes that swung the 2020 election.
That's it. And I think we are winning, because I say this to anybody out there in the media world, what radical left-wing policy is better than what Donald Trump is talking about when it comes to the border, the economy, taking on the cartels, Iran, Russia? They don't have the better substantive policy, and you're right. And what our side has to do is come together, and we're never going to be 100%. I'm never going to agree with you 100%, but I'm going to agree with you on such a large percentage of it that we need to unify behind that and say, okay, our differences aside, we either do this together and win, or we're sitting in this situation having lost. Yes, the election was rigged, I get it, but having lost and doing this instead of you and I, and you being maybe the Attorney General, saying this is how the rule of law needs to be applied.
Well, I'm going to leave you to this. We're out of time. Kash, I'm going to have you back. I mean, you are 3 times the most popular guest that I can have on here. That's why I had to get you recorded today. But I want to leave you with this, and that is I think actually the left's coalition is a lot more fragile than the right's coalition. And Donald Trump in 2016 brought working America to the Republican Party and to conservative ideas and ideals. And so I just, I want to leave you with hope that, stick with it. We got to fight through this. We got to have better ideas and advance those ideas and not be afraid to go to any neighborhood and win hearts and minds. So thank you for joining us. This is Matt Whitaker on Liberty and Justice here at CPAC Now, and we are live at CPAC.